Hi there, my name's Damien, and today I've got a Power Automate and Office Scripts proof of concept. In this demonstration, I'll show you how I build dynamic charts, both pie charts and column charts, using data from a worksheet in Excel. And that data is manipulated using an Office script that is called via a Power Automate Cloud Flow. The results of that flow in the form of images are then sent to email or Teams based on individual groups or dynamic groups. So I'm going to jump onto my demonstration and show you how it's done. So here I am in my Excel spreadsheet, and the purpose really is to show you how I turn this data with the names and the sales into these dynamic charts. So I have here a column chart that shows that DamoBird365 has completed 14 sales, Cullen has completed 6, and the same information here is represented in a pie chart, but also in an image as a table from Excel. So this data is not selectable, it is actually a physical image. And just like the email, we have the same data or the same images that have been sent to a Teams chat. Again, the bar chart and the pie chart. So let's see how that is built. Right, so in my worksheet, I have used a Microsoft form, and there are potentially a couple of different ways of creating a form. One is to build the form straight from Microsoft Forms and then build a Power Automate to bring your results across into an Excel table. But what I've done here is build the form direct from Excel, and that takes away any of the need to build that relationship or Power Automate. It will link that form directly to your new table in your new Excel worksheet. And you do that by selecting Insert, Forms, and New Form. So here I have the sort of standard tables, the ID, start time, completion time, and email, and the name of the individual that completed the form. And then the question that I ask on the form is the number of sales. So in my proof of concept, I'm asking my sales team to complete a Microsoft form with a number of sales that they've completed that day. And then the output from that cloud flow is going to be a bar chart or the column chart to an individual manager based on those team members. How many sales have the team members completed in that day? Now you'll note that I've got two columns the same here. One of them is generated by the Microsoft form, which is the number of sales. But the problem that I saw here was that even though I've asked for a number within the Microsoft form, it returns the number as a string. And that's defined here by the fact that I have an apostrophe at the beginning of my number 19 that you can see here. So I've created a second column, sales as value, and I've used the value expression to convert that number, or that string even, into a number. And that means that it's in a perfect format for me to create my pie and column charts. I also have an additional column here, which is the manager lookup, and this is actually based on another table within my Excel spreadsheet. So using XLOOKUP, I am referring back to this managers table here. I'm looking up the individual salesperson, so in this case DamoBird365, and I can see that Kevin Smith is my manager, and therefore there is Kevin's email. And my aim would be to email Kevin with the sales that are relative to myself, to Cullen, and that would be it. That's his team, the team of 2. So jumping back onto my Excel spreadsheet, I think I've covered everything that I need to do there. I'm going to jump onto the Microsoft form, and I'm going to put in the number of sales. So I'm going to choose today that I've completed 10 sales, and that will just demonstrate how my Excel table will update just like that, just like magic, with the fact that myself, DamoBird365, has completed the form. I have 10 sales and Kevin is my manager. So what does the Power Automate Cloud Flow look like? So not many actions, to be honest. The first action is to list the rows present in a table. And that's the managers table that I mentioned before. And the whole reason there is we saw on the table that the manager potentially appears more than once. And my aim now is to get a unique list of managers' emails, because I'm going to loop through those managers' emails in order to create those bespoke charts. So once I have that list of emails, I will then put the list of results from that table. I'll then put all those emails into an array using the select action. So taking the value from the results of this action and just specifying the single manager email as the map will return a list of all the emails. So if I have 10 staff, I will get 10 emails, even if the manager appears 3 times. And obviously I want to get the unique list. So that's when my next action comes into play, which is a compose action. And here I use the union expression. So if I provide the union expression, the body from the previous action, and compare those two, both the same, we will then get the unique values or the unique emails returned as an array. So previously I would have had 10 emails. If there are only 3 unique emails within that list, I will now have just those 3 emails. And that's the perfect start for my apply to each. So using the result or the output from that particular compose action, we apply that to an apply to each. And this is where I call my script. So I will cover the script in a minute. But the great thing about Excel scripts, and I've done a few videos now showing you how to build your own scripts, is that you can provide the variables that you require as part of that script, both as an input and as an output. So here I've got 2 particular inputs. I've got the manager's email, which I use for the filter on my script, and I also have the title for my chart. And in this case, I'm providing the current date, including the month, as part of that title, which you'll see on the demonstration later. So running this script is just a case of choosing where the file you're looking to run the script on exists. So in my case, OneDrive, in my OneDrive document library. The file is called sales demo, which you'll see at the top left there. And then my script is called sales script. Once that's run, it will return to me the images that I pass back as a result of me writing that Excel script. Then within the send an email action and the post an adaptive card action, I'm simply providing the output that comes from my Excel script in the form of a base64 image. So you'll see a bit of HTML here with the image source, proposing that the image is converted from base64 so that it can display on screen. It's exactly the same string for both my send an email and posting an adaptive card, you can see here. And because I have make-believe emails in my example, I've posted all of the examples to myself, but just to demonstrate that the email address is dynamic, I've included here I would send this email to the current item, which is the email address of the manager. So you could apply that into the 2, and similarly for the recipient of the adaptive card. So that's the basics of the flow. It's pretty easy, pretty simple. The bulk of the work is actually done by the Office script. So if I jump back onto Excel and we go into the Automate tab, we can now have a quick look at that script. So for those who are not familiar, at the top left here, you can see the scripts that I've written previously. You can view all scripts by clicking on all scripts, but I have my sales chart script, and I can open that and go into edit and then have a look at the code. So you'll see at the beginning of my function, I've defined the 2 variables that I spoke about that are part of the action within my Cloud Flow. So we have the manager email, which is passed to this script as a result of the apply to each action. And we have the title, which, remember I mentioned before that I use the format date time in order to provide today's date. And you'll see that commented out, I have some example emails and titles for when I was doing testing. So you can actually run the script directly within Excel in order to test this functionality out, but obviously I'm calling it from Power Automate in order to complete that full end-to-end automation. So one of the first parts of the script is always to select the sheet that you're working on. And in this case, I've actually specified the sales form. So you'll see here the tab is called sales form, and I've specified that I want to work on this on the sales form sheet within this workbook, because normally there's only one, but in this case I have both the managers and the sales form. Then I've defined the sales table, which is this particular table here that was created as a result of me creating the form. So if you've not used tables before, you can go into table design, and you can see here the name of my table is called sales table. Probably when you create your form and insert it into your worksheet, your table will be called table 1. You might want to rename it, so make sure you have your cursor somewhere in that table. This table design tab will open up, and then you can go and rename your table. And then one of the first things that I do on this data is to perform a filter. So I've got pretty much the same expression twice. The first one here is to filter on today, and that will basically allow me to just return the results that equal the 8th. And then I have a filter that is based on the manager's email address. So we can see here the variable manager email, which is what's passed to the Excel script. So by using that, I dynamically create the filter on the data within this particular table. Then, just so that I can get a dynamic table range, I define the used range of this worksheet and get a row count, and then I prepare the table range of the data that I'm interested in. So I'm always interested in column E and F, and running from 1 all the way to the last row, which in this case is 20, but as the sheet grows, this will dynamically calculate the last row. So for inserting the bar chart and the pie chart, it's pretty much the same expression. The only difference here is this keyword. We have the bar clustered or the pie exploded. There's also pie. There's also several other different bar types or chart types that you can explore, but these are the two that I've used in my example. And so by running this on the table range, which is based on the E1 to F last row, but also taking into account the filter that I've applied, we get a chart that is just relevant to that data for that manager on today's date. And then you'll see here in the next two expressions, I'm just updating the title of the two sheets or the two charts that I've created, and then finally grabbing the image data, which is this base 64 image data. And in addition to creating the column chart image and the pie chart image, I also grab a copy of the table image. So the data that's currently selected by this process can be returned either as an array or as a physical image. And in this case here, I've chosen to grab the image and define this image variable. So to keep things tidy, I delete the column chart and the pie chart from my data here. And you can see here in my console log, which is great for testing, I return the visible values for a particular selection or filter. And then finally, in order for the Power Automate to work, I return the chart image, the pie chart image, and the table image back to my Power Automate Cloud Flow. So before I jump onto my Power Automate, I will just manually run this and show you how it works. So I'm just going to delete these comments. If I get it in the right place, we'll just go ahead and edit my script. I have to remember to change it back again afterwards. And what I'm going to do also is I'm just going to comment out the deletion of these charts so we can see them being built here. So you can see that the manager's email I've defined as being Mary. So we can have a look quickly and we can see Mary has got 1, 2, potentially 3 staff that have provided sales figures for today. And our title of our form, or our charts even, is going to be called test title. And because I've commented out the deletion, those charts will remain on screen. So we'll go ahead and just run that. And all being well, you can see the filters taking place there. And we have our two charts. Our first one there, an exploded pie chart showing the figures there for the 3 members of staff. I'll just delete that quickly. And also our column chart with, again, those 3 members of staff and the number of sales that they have completed for today. So I'll tidy things up. I'll delete that. I'll quickly return the script back to the way it was by commenting these bits out. And hopefully everything will be happy. I need to put a comma in there. And I'll also put back my deletions so that I can keep my chart nice and clean. Just save that script. I'll go ahead and close that. I don't need to worry about any of the filters here. And if I jump back onto my flow and I will go ahead and hit test. We'll go and manually test. So this process takes about a minute. The first exercise is to retrieve a list of those unique email addresses for the manager's email. So the actual list row is present in the table, and the next 2 actions are very quick, as you've just seen there. So we've gone from a list of several email addresses. As you can see, Mary appears 3 times there because she's got 3 members of staff. But if we have a quick look at the compose here, you can see now I just have the unique list of email addresses, those 3 email addresses. Now the apply to each is running, and I'm expecting, there we go, a ping in my email. So here's my first bar chart, which is for Timmy Harlock, who's got 2 sales, and Fabian, who's got 8. And there's our dynamic pie chart. And you can see here, there's the data that's been selected from our table 8 and 2. If I go into my teams, you can see again I've received a flow, and there's another one just popping as we speak. So exactly the same thing again, 2 and 8. We've got Mary's figures here, which is the 3 members of staff. And if you remember before, right at the very beginning, once this finally loads up, I'd given myself 10 sales. So there's Damo Bird 365. I have 10 sales. That's me represented there in the orange. So you can see I'm the better performing sales figures for that day on the 8th of June. And again, you'll see that the title here is dynamic based on today's date that I've run this exercise. So that's my flow completed. The only other thing really to quickly demonstrate is that I've also returned these values in the results of my Office script. So you can see there sort of tailored figures or tailored results based on that individual manager. And as I jump through the 1 of 3 runs, if I jump into number 2, you can see there different names there in the results, and that's just returning an array there of their sales figures. So potentially, if you'd rather work with those figures in your Power Automate rather than these images that I've returned, then equally you can do that too. So that's the end of my demonstration. Today I've shown you how you can use Power Automate in order to populate dynamic charts using Office scripts. I have several other videos on Office scripts I encourage you to watch. One about invoicing, how to turn the Excel data into, or not Excel data, sorry, a data source into Excel invoices using a template, again using Office scripts. And I also have a couple of other videos which I'll share with you above for both retrieving data from Excel but also saving data to Excel without tables. So that's one of the limitations of Power Automate. Your data must be in a table in Excel. Well, with Office scripts, you don't need that functionality. You can do it straight from Power Automate and Office scripts. So I hope you've enjoyed that, and I look forward to seeing you again. Thanks for watching.